Welcome to another episode of Hiring Empowering Solutions podcast. My name is Molly McGrath, and I am the co-founder of this revolutionary office altering podcast. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. And if you're a first-time listener, check us out at hiringandempowering.com. All right, today we are going to hit it and we're going to go fast and furious. I'm so excited about our guest today, Dana Wilde. And let me tell you a little bit about today's topic and what we're talking about. We're speaking about why action is not what building your business is about and how to train your brain. Many people, even this morning, I got a call from someone who wanted me to help them with working with their team and some of their hiring initiatives. And the attorney said, I just need help with my mindset. And I said to her, oh, just you hold on because I'm going to have an amazing podcast for you to listen to. I'm excited. I got to meet Dana a couple weeks ago through mutual connections. And after probably 3-5 minutes into our conversation, we just found a mutual connection right off the bat. Our love for Abraham Hicks, for all this mindset and energy work. Many of you have heard me speak about Reiki, etc. And Dana is an expert in how to intentionally and systematically change your mindset so you can get better outcomes. And after growing her very own business from $0 to $1 million a year in under 19 months, she shows you how to make money by really being happy and getting paid for being you. We always talk about your personal branding, but she brings a very methodical shift to it. And I'm excited to go through her program myself. So, and Dana, you have nearly 100,000 followers in how many countries? 87?
Yeah, we've got over 100,000 in 110 countries now. So that's always fun when we look up that statistic. And it's really exciting to be here, Molly. Thank you so much for having me. I think the work you're doing is amazing and I can't wait to play.
Oh, yes. And, I just love many of your best-selling books and like Train Your Brain. You've been featured in movies such as The Abundance Factor, The Truth About Prosperity, Big Dream. And I just love your fascination with neuroscience and the power of the mind and really your commitment and your unwavering stand to support entrepreneurs with really focusing on that. It's just incredible, necessary, timely work. And I feel like for the first time in the history of time, we have the business owner's attention because they have the craving brain, if you will. They've implemented strategy over and over again, but you can have all the strategy in the world in regards to business building. But if you cannot train your brain, then the shelf life is not there. Right?
Well, exactly right. And that's why when you first opened up and you were talking about why action isn't what builds your business, this is really core to our messaging. Because if you think about people who are successful in their industries and you take the 100 most successful people and you line them up against the wall and you ask them, what kind of action did you take to get where you're at? You're going to get 100 different answers. Everybody has different methods of action. Some of them don't even take that much action, and they'll still rise to the top. And so action can't be the common denominator in what makes people successful. But if you look at those same 100 people and you try to figure out what the common denominator is, what you're going to see is that they think differently than people who haven't reached that level of success yet. They have a different level of expectation. They have a different level of thinking. And what we've discovered with Train Your Brain is that you can teach people how to think like this, no matter your background, no matter how negative you are, no matter how negative your parents were, it makes no difference. This is a learnable skill.
So tell us a little bit about what that means, think differently, and then also how to train your brain and start thinking like some of these successful entrepreneurs, humans, when you line them up against the wall.
Yes, good question, Molly. The main thing to know about the brain, the single thing that's the most important in my humble opinion, is that we have a part of the brain called the reticular activating system. So this reticular activating system, this RAS, is like a little matchmaker that lives in your head. So if you think of the reticular activating system like a little matchmaker, and what it does all day, every day, 24 hours a day, is it sifts through the monkey punch all of the sounds and sights and sensations and, bits of information that are coming at us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That is what it's looking for, looking through, processing for us so that it's looking for a match. So whatever you're thinking about, whatever you're talking about, that's what it's matching up. So if you're having a thought like, everybody I hire, they don't stick around, or I only find people who they aren't competent, and you have a complaint or something that you're chronically thinking about, your reticular activating system is on the lookout for more of that. So more people who are like that. So this is why most people have had the experience with the reticular activating system, where they will think about buying a new car, and then they start to see that car everywhere. Or sometimes women will get pregnant, or maybe your partner gets pregnant and you see pregnant women everywhere. I was interviewed by a gentleman not so long ago. He's like, oh my gosh, we just had a baby and I'm seeing babies everywhere. And I'm like, that's your reticular activating system. Whatever you're thinking about and talking about, your brain says this must be really important to you because you're thinking about it so much. So when you start to have that awareness and you start to have that information, then just take the steps to shift it becomes really, really easy. So would you like to hear those steps, Molly?
I would. I really want to highlight something. I had a conference call this morning with one of my clients, attorney, and we were talking about frustration with employees. As you just said, so often I'll hear in the business world, business would be great, but for employees, I never can find good people. I can't keep good people. Nobody cares as much as I do. Mm-hmm. I can't let go because I can't trust anyone. That's common that I've heard for 22 years now. And I said to her, let me ask you this. We've had problem with Susie. We've had problems with Tommy. We've had problems with Jill. What's the common denominator here? It's that you are already expecting failure and disappointment, and that people aren't going to show up and stand up.
Yeah, exactly. And, this is why sometimes you go and you see a motivational speaker and they'll give a lot of phrases that we're all familiar with, what you focus on grows, and you bring about what you think about, and all of this stuff, but nobody tells you why. Why is it that what you focus on grows? Why is it that what you think about, you bring about? And the reason is the reticular activating system. So once you know that, then like right now, everybody who's listening to the show, you've already heard too much to ever go back to your old way of thinking. Once you understand that you have a little matchmaker that lives in your head that is got your back. People often say, oh, my brain's sabotaging me, or, there's that verbiage used a lot in marketing. And I like to say your brain is not like a mugger that's jumping out behind a tree, knocking you over the head. Your brain is your best friend. Your brain is diligently listening for clues. How can I help? How can I support you? What can I look for? And so we need to be better thinkers. And this is what we train, and it's not really that difficult once you get it. Most people are walking around in an unconscious state of mind most of the day. It's almost like being hypnotized. We don't pay attention to what we're doing. We're brain scientists estimate we're unconscious 95 to 99% of the day. Brushing our hair, taking showers, sometimes driving. Have you ever had that experience where you're driving and you're like, whoa, I've gone 10 miles and I don't remember the last 10 miles. It's like an unconscious state of mind. And so we're trying to encourage people just to eke their awareness by 0.5% a day. It really doesn't take much to start to see ridiculous, revolutionary shifts in your life. And if you start paying attention, and the first step one, is the wake up step. Become aware. Wake up to what you're saying. Wake up to what you're thinking about, what you're talking about. When you feel that stress in your body and you can tell you're chronically thinking about something or stressed about something, what is it? What is that thing you keep thinking about and saying? Because that's what you're creating over and over and over again. This is why most people only have incremental change in their lives. They get a result, they think about the result, the RAS matches up the result, they get the same result, they think about the result, the reticular activating system matches it up again, round and round and goes. So we have to be proactive thinkers in our head. We have to wake up and we have to say, look it, I can choose my thoughts. And once you become aware, then step 2 is to decide, do I want this thought to keep matching up? And sometimes you don't care. For years, I said, I'm not a morning person, and I didn't care. I didn't want to be a morning person. I was perfectly happy. I don't need to change that thought or change the way I think about that. But if you do want to change it, then step 3 is you must find a way to talk about the current situation in a way that feels good. So find a way to talk about the current situation in a way that feels good. Step 4 is feel good. Have that feel good feeling, experience the emotion. So kind of all the work, or all the play, as we like to say, is in step 3. How do you find a way to talk about the situation, think about it in the best feeling way? Now, sometimes you can't be peel me off the ceiling happy about a situation, but you can find a way to be more soothing, to be more hopeful, to really start to manifest, intentionally manifest what you want in life by thinking differently. Does that all make sense, Molly?
It does. And I love how simplistic.
Yes.
But this is the hardest part. And I love the step 1 of you have to wake up to what you're thinking. The example that you used of you driving 10 miles and not realizing, I can't tell you how many times before I started deploying some of these strategies that I do catch myself still getting there. I love the comment of eke your awareness 10% of the way.
Yeah, if you can even literally, I'm not kidding, just a 0.5% of the day, be more present. And so we have a lot of different tricks and experiments that we have for, first of all, executing step 3. And I can give you a couple of really good tricks today.
Please.
Yeah. And because sometimes it's hard to use, we like to call it perfect language. Most people think of the positive thinking movement as this movement of people where we're walking around blissed out going, I am abundant, I am happy, I am loving, and it's great when you can feel that way. But for the most part, most of us, we don't feel that way in peel me off the ceiling ecstasy on a day-to-day basis. Like every day I get frustrated with my computer every day. Something happens to knock us off our center. But what happens is you get better at catching it. You get better at turning it around. Fewer things bother you. You get better at spending most of your time in a feel-good place, even if it's not ecstasy. And so the ticket here that's important to remember that I really like to drive home to people is that this is something we already do in a lot of areas of our lives. We choose the cars we drive, we choose the houses we buy, or the neighborhoods we live in, or the schools our kids go to, or the clothes we wear, the style we like, or the foods we eat. Like, think how unconscious people were about the way they ate 50 years ago compared to today. So we're progressively evolving as a species, and this is the next frontier. I want people to be aware that you can choose the way you think and the thoughts in your head. And the benefit is that it's practical. It only takes, if you use some of the methods we talk about today and you really make a concentrated effort for the next 72 hours to do what we call tell a new story, your reticular activating system will kick in and you will start to see evidence that it's working within 72 hours. And happiness is practical. We call it intentional action, because if you feel good first and then take action, you're going to meet with better results. So part of the reason why I'm known for growing 2 businesses from $0 to $1 million level, each respectively in under 2 years, is because this is the secret sauce. When you feel good, you show up in the world in a better way. When you feel good, you sit down and you're in the flow and you work less because you get stuff done easier. When you feel good, you like people better. You want to talk to them. When you feel good, they like you better. When you feel good, you feel like taking action. You feel like working. When you feel good, you open up the creative pathways in your brain. So frustration shuts them down. You don't have access to good ideas. When you feel good, those creative pathways open up. You get brilliant ideas. So happiness is practical. Happiness is what makes your business build quickly. You can go out and do what the rest of the world is telling you, which is, and I know you're not doing this, Molly, but a lot of people listen to that idea of grind, hustle, grind, hustle, work hard, and then you're going to build a business. And that is one way to do it. But the easier, more fun way to do it is to make feeling good your priority. And then you can do almost anything and it turns to gold.
You have said so much here. The peeling me off the ceiling moments and the frustration are two that are sticking out for me right now, especially with business owners and a solo business owner that has been taught it's all about the hustle. It's all about the grind. I can't tell you how many phone calls, emails that I receive daily in regards to, and they always start off with, I'm so busy. I'm like their commitment to that story, that the expectation to white knuckle life and to expect disappointment and frustration everywhere. And they have absolutely no control over it, but they just want to keep telling that story over and over. Even when you say, okay, here's 4 things you can do right now, like you said, and change your entire world in 72 hours. They'll argue with you for an hour of why that's not going to work.
I knew I'm so busy one is a great story that most of us tell. I still have to bust myself on the I'm so busy story because we get, especially when you love life, you get busy. And, so you have to be open to implementing this. And if you've listened to this far into this interview, you're open. You already qualify. If you can hear my voice right now, you're in the club. This is it. Because the people who aren't interested, they self-dequalify themselves. They've stopped listening before the first 5 seconds when you said this is going to be all about mindset. They left. So if you're still here, then this is something you can implement and you can implement easily. And so when we talk about perfect language, part of the challenge, I think, and the reason maybe the positive thinking movement has gotten a bad rap in the past is because most of the time when we're talking about traditional affirmations, people are using those I am statements, and they're powerful statements, and they're amazing. Tony Robbins calls them incantations. T. Harv Eker calls them declarations. I call them mantras. And so you may say a mantra like I'm abundant or I'm loving or I'm happy. And those are great, but those are great only if you already feel good. If you're not feeling good, those don't feel good. And most people, we have ideas about ourselves that we've thought so much they feel like truth. So to give you an example, I was working with a filmmaker and he was introverted, very introverted. I would call him shy. And he was having a challenge because he was going to networking events where there were people who he could work with or, help him with production. And he would get really nervous and tongue-tied and, just walk into the room and the reticular activating system would make his palms sweat and his breathing would get shallow and he couldn't string together a sentence very well or describe his project. And then he'd leave the event and he'd beat himself up and he'd be like, God, I'm so stupid and why can't I be more outgoing and I'm never going to get this done. And that would create emotion. The reticular activating system would ingrain and so around it went. So you're not going to tell this guy, hey, you just need to start saying, I'm an extrovert. I'm an extrovert. I'm an extrovert. Like it's never going to work. And this is why most of the time when people try to do mantras or affirmations, old school style, they get that argument, angel on one shoulder, devil. I'm abundant. No, you're not. I'm abundant. No, you're not. Right? So you get no forward movement. So we try to give people in Train Your Brain some cheats and some power words. And one of my favorite ones that I'll share with you now is the word but. So the word but is designed in the English language to negate everything that comes before it. And the brain actually literally only hears whatever you say after the word but. So I gave this to this gentleman and he used it and of course went on to live happily ever after. What he started saying was, I'm shy, but people like my style. I'm shy, but I'm finding right people to connect with. I'm shy, but things are working out for me. I'm shy, but I'm connecting with the right people. I'm shy, but everything's going my way. I'm shy, but my projects are getting made my way. Right. So now his brain could only hear the affirmation that was coming after it, but he didn't have to deny that he's shy. And so most of the world is telling you, hey, if you're a procrastinator, or you're disorganized, or you're not techie, or you're shy, or you're any of those things that we say you're supposed to be this, get on the fix it train, and you need to fix these things before you can be successful. And I'm telling you, you don't have to fix any of those things. You can keep you can be not techie and be a wild success. You can grow quickly. You can make multi-million-dollar business growth. You can, there's nothing standing in your way. There's nothing you need to change. You can grow just like you are now. The only change that most people need to make is how you talk about and think about the way you are right now. It needs to be your reason for your success, not the reason why you're not successful.
Wow. That's a phenomenal example right there, because many entrepreneurs actually are introverts that people don't even, and they,
I am.
Are you?
Oh yeah. Nobody believes it, but it's true. I'm totally an introvert.
Wow. And it's fascinating because people say that to me. I can't do that. They either have all their bag full of excuses or reasons why they can't go to that marketing event, to use that example, because it's a very common one. And the I am statements have never resonated with me, and I never could get past those. And I don't know why. And to your point, if you're not feeling good and you're just interacting with it anyways, it's a complete lie. It's not going to work. So the permission you just gave everybody of not having to get on that fix it train, so to speak, just be awake to it, be aware to it, name it, and then find a way to train your brain to have the things that you want in life.
Yeah, the idea is to talk about the current situation in a way that feels good. How can I talk? That's step 3, and that's where all of our quote unquote work, or we like to call it play, is, how can I talk about it in a way that feels good? So if I have a story that's I'm so busy, I'm so overwhelmed, well, that doesn't feel good. But if I can start to and we have a little, I guess we'll call it a trick. It's a little trick we call doing a rant. And what the rant is, if you think about it from the negative standpoint, most people who do rants, they have a little negative complaint and they blow it up into a big negative complaint, and they call that a rant. And so what we call a rant is a positive rant. And we're talking about taking a little seedling of an idea and starting to grow it into a bigger idea. So you've got this idea, I'm overwhelmed and I'm busy and I'm stressed out. And I'm not going to take that idea right now and be like, oh, I'm so happy and I'm so free and I feel so good. There's too big of a jump. You need to transition into it slowly and find sentences. And by slowly, I mean, you can do it in 3 minutes, but you got to start out with thoughts like, okay, I am busy. And I have said yes, maybe to things I shouldn't have, but I've said yes to too many things. And I have been feeling a lot of stress, but I do like being a brain trainer. And I threw the word but in there right away, right? But I do like being a brain trainer. And I do like that I can think in my head. And I know I'm stressed and I'm feeling overwhelmed right now, but I've been here before and I've gotten past it and I know it's possible. And I know the part of it is awareness. And so I'm glad to be aware. And I do like my life. Like I feel like I've got fulfilling work and I like what I do. And I like that I'm helping people and I like the message I'm bringing to the world. And I know that I may not be exactly where I want to be. And I've been using action to build my business. And so I realize a lot of things I've said yes to, it's because I was under the mistaken thought that actions would build my business. But now I know that it's brain training. And now I know that feeling good's more important. And so this 60 seconds or 120 seconds I'm taking right now just to breathe deep and relax and start again, this is valuable. It might be, in fact, the most valuable thing I do today. So that's kind of exciting that I learned a new skill that I can actually take and move forward to deal with this. And I've been busy most of my life and stuff still seems to get done. So I don't need to make such a big deal about it. And I do like my full life. I like that I have so many experiences and passions and interests and so many things drawing my attention and drawing the life force through me. And that feels really good. And so I wouldn't trade that for the world. And I know that when it comes down to it, I balance things and juggle things. And it's like a symphony a little bit. Like, the horns know when to play and the drums know when to play. And in my life, it works like that. And the reality is the good stuff gets done and anything else falls by the wayside. And so it's kind of a natural filter. And I do love all the things I do. And I love that I've got so many passions. And I like that things sort themselves out. And I like being a brain turner. I like the idea of thinking in my head. And I like the idea of feeling better. And I know when I feel good, I feel like taking action. And when I feel good and I'm taking action, I know that I'm taking action that counts and it feels really good. And in fact, I kind of can't wait. And the more I start to think about it and talk about it, the more I realize like, oh my gosh, if I sit down, this is how I work less, is just sit down in this state and then look out world, because I'm going to get so much done. I'm going to blow your minds right now because I'm going to sit down and just be productive and have fun and feel good. And I'm feeling better already. And I'm so ready to go, and let's go. Right. So now what happens is now you sit down, you take action from that state. You're not busy anymore. You're inspired and you're passionate and you're motivated and you get more done in a very fast time, very easily, without fail and without flaw. And that's how you live a full, busy life without being stressed, is you think about it differently and talk about it differently.
That was beautiful. I'm so glad that was recorded. I really love, so that's step 3 of finding a way to talk about the situation in the best way possible that is soothing, hopeful, manifesting what you really want. But I know my listeners, I know my attorneys, what you just did, I felt myself just releasing and really redirecting the way that I was viewing everything that I have on my plate for today, for example.
Yeah.
So you do this, but but when you do this, and the narrative, the story is, okay, yes, I am so busy, but I really love what I do. And you start to go on this rant and you have this dialogue. What about when the dialogue jukes and jives and it moves to, but there's no answer, there's no possibility, and those thoughts pop up as people start experimenting and trying this on and really working step 3. What would be your drive-by coaching for when you start going down the rabbit hole, as I know many will when they start experimenting with this, and how do you reframe and shift?
Well, we have a phrase that I'm kind of famous for in my little pond in the world, and that is, the problem is not the problem. The problem is that I keep thinking and talking about the problem. And so when you can figure that out, if the problem is not the problem, and if the problem is that I keep thinking and talking about the problem, suddenly that applies to everything. So you can say, I'm afraid I'm going to go down the rabbit hole. So the problem isn't that you're going to go down the rabbit hole. The problem is that you say you're going to go down the rabbit hole and you're talking about going down the rabbit hole. And so now it becomes easy to really target the rant is just one technique. We have 20 mind work experiments in the book, but you have a way to target your verbiage and the way you talk about the thing based on what the real problem is. So the real problem here, from what I understand what you're saying, is it's fear I'm not going to be able to do this. Mm-hmm. Fear that I have a time when there's going to be something I can't turn around. And so when you catch yourself feeling that fear and being like, this isn't going to work for me, then that's the conversation to have. That's the workplace to do. How can I talk about the current situation? Well, I have tried things in the past, but I have to say I never really realized that there was a matchmaker in my head, and that's new information. And that really does make things a little more clear for me to think that no matter what I'm thinking, that Raz is matching stuff up. And that really is a whole new way of thinking about this. And I like the idea, what Dana said is that I can only focus on one thought at a time. And when I'm thinking this thought, even if it's a boring thought, even if I'm thinking a thought like, I like green grass, or I like ducks, that thought is still occupying my mind in a way that is not going down the rabbit hole. And so that's kind of interesting to me. I kind of like treating this like it's an experiment. I see why she's calling them experiments, because this is really an experiment in my own mind, an experiment in my own focus. And I like learning things that are new. And I've learned other things I actually learned a lot of other things and I got good at those. Like this could be something I could get good at too. And so you focus your attention, you focus the verbiage, the way you talk to yourself based on the thing that you think is your problem. And I'm going to tell you something really interesting. And it probably took me about 3-4 years into my business to realize this. The people who are the most negative, the people who were raised in the most negative environments, those are the people that get the fastest results with this. And it took me a while to realize because we had a lot of people in the pond who were having huge results. And when I'd hear about their backgrounds, I'd think, wow, that's amazing. But then it made sense because, if you tell me you're a relatively positive person and you're living your life at a level 7, well, I can take you to a level 10 or 11, right? I can take you from a 7 to 10 with just a few tweaks. But if you've been banging around at a level 3 in happiness, raised in a negative environment, kind of have a propensity towards negativity, you apply just a little bit of this. And you're not only going to feel drastically better, your results are going to shift so quickly. It's going to blow your mind. So if you have a history of going down the rabbit hole, or you have a history of obsessive chronic worrying, well, then you actually have the one skill that's going to make you really, really good at this. Think about OCD people, and I know this because I'm totally OCD borderline myself, which is you think of one idea and you get a hold of it and you obsess on it and you blow it up into a big thing. Well, I want you to do that here. But instead of taking a little idea and obsessing it into a big worry, I want you to take a little happy idea and obsess it into a big happy idea. And now all those people who think, well, I can't do this, or this hasn't worked for me, you can do this because you've got the skill to do this. All you're doing is turning your focus.
Wow. That's amazing. I think most of our listeners can resonate with that OCD.
Yeah, totally makes my man crazy. Like the salt shaker is going to go right here.
Well, I loved how you just reframed it because I'm like, yeah, I'm OCD, but I've worked on my OCD. I can go to bed with dirty dishes in the sink now, but that your mind is well.
I'm teasing you while you bragger.
But the mind side of it, you can grab onto some negative thing, such as we're not going to make payroll this week.
Exactly.
There's nothing on the calendar. My team needs me. I don't have time for them, and I'm deathly afraid that they're going to quit if I don't get a handle on this. Those are real things. They're not boring things. And most of our listeners, they don't sit into a place of, I don't have anything significant to worry about, obsess about, think about, where their businesses are on the line. And I don't say this from a place of shaming anyone, but if you can't stick or, if you can't change your thinking and kind of adapt to these strategies and really make the unwavering commitment for them, it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
It's totally. The brain is your best friend. It's a little matchmaker that lives in your head. And whatever you're thinking about, and here's the interesting part. I haven't had an opportunity. I've spent some time with Jack Canfield. I interviewed him. I had an event at his house that I was there for a while. So I've talked to him about this a lot because I really want to try to unravel how do rich people think, and I've been watching my own progression, like as I break through to another level, like what is specifically different in my thinking. So I was raised in the late 70s. So I was kind of raised in this idea where you have an experience for 5 minutes and then you analyze and talk about it for an hour. So my brain has always been kind of set up where like, how can I psychoanalyze myself? So I was thinking about this, and I was talking to Jack Canfield about it, and I said, I think I have a sense now, having raised through the ranks a little bit myself financially, that it never goes away. That it's basically like, and I asked him point blank, do you stress about money, but you just add a zero, or add 2 zeros from what any stresses I might have? And this is about 5-6 years ago. The interview is actually still out there, I think, somewhere. And he basically said, yes, because here's the deal. This is him talking. I still have to do the work. as I get to each level, I have bigger dreams. And as I have bigger dreams, I have to do the mindset work that it takes to get me past, wherever I'm at to that next dream. And that's when it really hit me. The volume of money that's coming in now into my business, my 20-year-old self would have been like, oh my God, I hit the jackpot,
Yeah.
But you grow as you grow, I have bigger dreams now, starting trust funds and starting animal rescue organizations and all of these different things. And so as you start to grow, this work becomes even more and more important, and it never ends. So it's a skill that really it behooves you to learn, unless you want to live your life in stress. Because I can honestly say, like, I virtually have almost zero stress, because you learn how to do this, and you have frustrations, and I have days where I'm mad at my computer, or I have things where I go, okay, well, that didn't go my way. It's not exactly how I would have wanted to go, and you don't chronically worry about things anymore, and you don't stress, and you have a real underlying knowing that things are always working out for you. And I can tell you something especially important about this particular thing, because you brought up payroll and things like that. The brain has a mechanism in it. I'll call it a mechanism. I don't know the real term. By the way, for anybody who's wondering, I am not a neuroscience or a Harvard researcher graduate. I'm a high school graduate who actually just studied this for 35 years. So if you want to learn brain science, learn it from somebody who speaks in high school terms. Here I am. So this mechanism, we'll call it, is called homeostasis. And homeostasis, if you are hot, your body's automatically going to sweat. You don't have to make a vision board to make it sweat. It's going to sweat. Or if you're cold, your body's automatically going to shiver. You don't have to say mantras to shiver. It's just going to happen. So the brain has a desire to stay the same. And this is why people use this to say your brain's sabotaging you, because your brain has a desire to stay the same. And so think about that really clearly for a minute. Your brain has a desire to stay the same because it's familiar, and it likes the familiar. It doesn't like the unfamiliar. So it will, and I learned this in hypnotherapy school, by the way. So I did, this is based in that. So that being the case, if you have a history where generally you've paid your bills for the most part, like for the most part, you pay your bills. They eventually get paid. They get paid. You pay, it might be the last minute. You might have stress about it, but they get paid. You can take that to the bank. Your brain will find a way, no matter what, to keep things the same for you. This is why people sometimes, when they're leaving a day job to go start their business, they get really nervous about making that money back. And I say, you have a financial blueprint. This is your financial homeostasis. You have a certain expectation for what you're going to make, and you will make that. You will make it relatively quickly, as long as you don't freak out emotionally and you just go out and do the smart things, do the things, train your brain, all that stuff. You're going to make it, because your brain has a desire to stay the same. So the thing all of us to be dramatic, are fighting against or are working with is to level up our brains to make the thing that's unfamiliar the next level, the next level of income, the next level of success, familiar. Training our brains to see ourselves at the next level, training our brains so that our reticular activating system matches that next level because it thinks it's true. But at the end of the day, there really isn't anything to stress about, because your brain will keep you the same. Staying the same is not the problem. Does that make sense, Molly? You see what I mean?
Yeah. So how to level up your brain? Is that step 3?
Well, it's all step 3, but how to level up your brain, the little tweak in step 3 that happens when you're going to the next level is, instead of talking about the current situation in a way that feels good, it's about talking about the future situation as though it's already happened. So again, if you know that you have a matchmaker that lives in your head, like, this is so core. If you have a matchmaker that lives in your head, the brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined. And you have a matchmaker that lives in your head, and whatever you think about, it thinks it's real, and it's matching it up. Whatever you think about, it thinks it's real, and it's matching it up over and over and over and over and over and over again. So now if you can find a way to think about that new thing that you want as though it's already happened, because that's what it's got to match. You can't think about it as, I want $1 million business. I'll be so happy the day I have $1 million business, because your brain keeps matching that up. You don't have one, but you'll be happy when you do, right? So you have to be thinking about it like, I've got this thing. I've got this new car. It feels so good to be in it. I love the smell of this car. It feels so great. I love how it drives. I love that it is electric. Whatever you've got in your mind, it feels so good to have it. It feels so good to achieve it. So many times people are saying mantras, like we're taught to say mantras. I am abundant. I am happy. I have a financially successful business. But the reality is none of us talk like that. If you really reach that next level in your business, and I said, how are things going? You would be like, oh my God, things are so good. I can't believe it. I got people, I got a waiting list. I got clients wanting to work with me. I have to raise my rates. Now I'm just trying to decide what to raise my rates to. I had to hire some people. So I'm thinking now maybe we're going to be an agency. Things are so exciting. My business is rocking. It's just amazing how things are going. Those are the sentences you'd be saying. So if you were thinking those sentences, your brain would be matching that up. It's a little matchmaker.
This is such a different perspective, because I always feel like there's two camps. At least this has been my experience thus far. Business and strategy. So strategy. You hire a business consultant, business coach, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And then there's the spiritual side of it, right? Where you're working on, you're always, at least in my experience, I have been taught that, your brain is the bad side of town. Stay out of your brain, drop into your heart, get out of your brain, because you ruminate there. It tells you lies, etc. You have shifted tremendously for me today about it's not an either or, but that your brain is your best friend versus your worst friend, because yes. I am OCD. I can ruminate and I can create the most tragic story about anything and everything if I'm left to. So I did that for so many years, to the point of getting shingles. And then I was like, oh my gosh, then I abandoned my brain. And I was like, no, I'm just going to live in my heart. But then there was a place of anxiety, because it was so incongruent. And what I love about you saying your brain is your best friend, and most of our listeners are, the top intellect, they're attorneys and very, very intelligent and lead with intellect. And I like that you even just naming it and visualizing, call forward your matchmaker.
Yes.
And it truly is that, where you need to say, this is my order, if you will. I'm putting in my order. Now go fulfill it.
Yes, exactly right. I've called it different things, it's like your administrative assistant or your concierge or all of these different things. But the reality is it's just even so much bigger than that. And when you think about it, because we've talked before, I'm into energy work, and I do Reiki I volunteer at a no-kill cat shelter here, all volunteer cat shelter locally. And we have a Reiki team. And, I know in the power of energy, but I know that if I'm going to have a decision to do Reiki, I make that decision with my mind. If I'm going to have a decision to shift my energy, I make that decision with my mind. So for me, you can't deny the mind, because the mind is like the central operating system of your entire world, your connection with other people, your connection with your own body, your connection with your heart, your connection with all the cells in your body. The way you think is what really connects all that. And I think this is why this work is so exciting for me, is because consciousness hasn't really been explored or talked about. We're just at the baby forefront of this. And a lot of it is because science is starting to catch up and we're able to start understanding this better. But this is big stuff. Here we are human consciousness. We're conscious human beings. We are thinking human beings. And what is thought, and where do thoughts come from? And the reality is none of us have answers to that. Nobody knows where thought comes from. And so we're all just doing our best to document our own experience, learn from others who are out there studying these things like quantum physics and mechanics and all that, but then document our own experience and say, yeah, this works. Being happy works. Joy is the path. Feeling good is the path. Thinking is the igniter, and it ignites everything else. And you can choose. You can choose at thinking a different thought, just like you can choose eating a different food. It's that easy.
So wake up to what you're thinking. If you have
Mhm.
stinking thinking and you're worried and stressed out, and just be aware of it and eke your awareness 10% of the way of the day, and then decide. Okay.
Even 0.5%, Molly.
Yeah.
Literally 0.5% a day will make a huge difference. And feel the positive emotion. So in short, if you want one step, here's the step. Do your best in every moment to feel good right now.
Mm,
That's it.
that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's really, and it is that simple. I mean, I think that's what's kind of fun. You know, we talked before about people having their biggest weakness. Maybe it's your biggest strength. And, you know, so people think that one woman, she's very emotional. She cries a lot. And she's like, I can't be a professional and cry. And I'm like, maybe that's what people love about you, you know, or people are procrastinators, or they're not techie, or whatever their thing is. Well, for me, for years, I didn't talk about that. I didn't go to college. I was a high school graduate, and it wasn't like I was hiding it. I just didn't think it was a sales point. So I just never talked about it. Well, since I've been more vocal with it, I realized, like, oh my gosh, this is my biggest gift. I'm not explaining these things like most of the people in this niche. They are graduates from Harvard in the research department, and they're talking about these things. You know, I'm coming at this from a standpoint of, this is easy. This is your brain. You live with it all day, every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So isn't it time to become friends with it and to realize that it is your friend, and that, you know, you're the boss, but it's your friend. It's there to help you.
And there's so much evidence everywhere that you turn, to use your story of, I think people put people in camps of negative and positive people and thinking and all that. And to your point, when you have this story of negativity or breakdown to breakthrough, Tony Robbins, as you mentioned earlier, I just saw him speak on Saturday at Funnel Hacking Live, and he was off the charts, and he spoke into much of this, and he used so many examples of Oprah Winfrey, and the list is endless. And what distinguishes them is the amount of time they put they put more time into training their brain than they did into the hustle.
Yes, exactly right. That's exactly 100% true. You have to, you end up having to do less. And I'll tell you what else too, Molly, because this speaks to the I'm so busy story. When you start to understand that it's really not action that builds your business, that it's your mindset, now you have all the time in the world. So when I'm loading the dishwasher after a meal and cleaning my kitchen, which is like one of my very favorite things to do in all of the world, it's a time when I'm daydreaming and imagining my new business, imagining the next level, and, you know, dreaming and saying my mantras and training my brain. So I come back from working, I've got a personal trainer, and I come back from working with her, and I'm feeling like, wow, so good. And I'm listening to music and feeling so good. And I think, this is building my business. This is building my business. This is when I'm getting those good ideas. I'm not getting the good ideas when I'm sitting in front of the computer or talking to a joint venture partner or any of that. That's time when I'm focused in that moment on, quote unquote, a work activity. When you get the good ideas, when you are having your most brilliant thoughts that are bringing in the money in a faster, quicker, easier way, it's when you're doing those other things that bring you joy, that you love to do. That's when you get those good ideas. Driving in the car. How many people get good ideas when they're in the shower or driving in the car or doing something else? That's why. And so now time doesn't become an issue anymore, because action's not the thing that's building your business. Happiness is building your business. Joy is building your business. And you can feel joy all day long. Every minute of every day builds my business.
That was profound. And listeners, do not go to sleep on that, because using the example of loading your dishwasher, cleaning, you've had a hard, long day. You've been jam packed. You know, you have 400 emails to reply to, 12 voicemails. You still need to deal with X, Y, and Z. And you're filling your dishwasher. You're cleaning up after dinner. Most entrepreneurs will be in their head trying to strategize and just building this bigger flame of problems, of worrying about all the emails, all the voicemails. This has been a game changer for me. I do exactly the same, where I'm just visioning. I know I have quote unquote stresses. And to your point, since I started adopting this work, I literally have zero stress in my life.
Right.
Now, on paper, you would probably call BS on that if you looked at my to-do list and what I have to get done this week. But my emotion and my interaction with it is it's not being led by emotion.
Right.
It is 100% being driven by my visioning of what is possible versus what is not possible.
Yes, that's exactly it. And it's funny because you get to a place where almost anything can happen and it really doesn't bother you. You know, it's really a funny thing, because ultimately one of my core mantras is that everything works out for me and everything is for my highest good. Everything is for my highest good. I really believe that. So there aren't things that I feel like happen to me. You know, and I know you are a big follower of Abraham Hicks, as I am, you know, and I really, that really resonates me, the idea of not only attraction, you know, that we attracted into our experience, but sometimes the easiest way to get what you are wanting in your life is through the resistance. Like sometimes something happens that feels like it's a negative thing that you didn't want to happen, but that's the thing that's going to get you what you want. And so now nothing becomes anything worth stressing about when you really believe that everything is happening for your highest good. And so now it just becomes about finding the things that are joyful, you know, to spend your time doing, finding the ways to market your business that are joyful, finding the people to play with where there's joy, picking and choosing the things that are interesting to you, following the things that are little shining lights, and then just letting it all happen, letting it unfold. So it's less about making it happen, and it's more about watching it happen and allowing it to happen.
Beautiful. Okay, so in closing, when you talk about it, there's only one thing that you can do. And I know there's some listeners that are in the thick of the fire right now. They're operating in a place where they believe they have real stresses. They could be like, yeah, you guys are great. But you don't understand. I hear this all the time. You don't understand my stress, my business, my calendar. And you talked about do your best in every moment to feel good, if that's the only thing you can do. So can you maybe give us some drive-by in closing of when people are stressed about money, payroll, hiring people? Susie just quit, whatever it might be. We just got fired by a client, and they're listening to us, maybe walking, driving, or in their office, that you can give them right now to help them with feeling good.
Yeah, the easiest one is to ask yourself, if your friend came to you and said this worry, like, I'm worried I'm going to lose my business, or I'm worried that this is going to happen, what would you say to them? And then just say that, because we wouldn't say to our friends like, yeah, you really screwed up. It's too bad. You're such a loser. You know, we would never say that. You know, we would say things like, no, hold on. It's going to be okay. And you've been here before, and you've done this before, and you're going to shift this. You're going to be fine. So it's like, you know, you're being your own best friend. You're talking to your brain like you think it is your best friend. What would you say to your best friend? Well, if your brain is going on and on and on and on about a problem, then talk to your brain with that soothing language and shift it around. Because the thing about using language to shift your emotion is, first of all, that is the way to shift your emotion. Like, words influence the way you feel. And once you start getting momentum on it, once you start getting emotional momentum, your brain will attract the next thought and the next thought and the next thought, and it gets easier and easier. And so if you want to start implementing this practice right now, then the thing to do is to put a Post-it note on your wall across from your bed or on the alarm clock that says something like, I'm a brain trainer, or today's going to be a great day, or I'm committed to positive thinking, or whatever it is, and spend 60 to 120 seconds before you get out of bed just committing to that. Okay, right. I woke up. I'm committed to feeling good in any moment. I know I'm not going to do 100%. I know I'm going to get knocked off my center, and that's okay. I don't mind, because right now I feel good. And I love this pillow, and I love this bed, and I'm going to take 60 seconds to just get myself feeling good. And today's going to be a great day. And I do have some things I'm looking forward to. And I'm going to search my brain right now for the things I'm looking forward to. And I'm going to focus on those. And I'm going to get out with joy in my heart. I love being alive. I'm pure positive energy, connected to source. Like, you can do whatever is your words that you love to say. Get that 60 seconds in the morning is going to carry you at least through breakfast. Then, then you just keep regrouping all day long, and it gets easier and easier and easier. But nothing that you learn will reap you as much financial benefit as this skill. There is no other skill you can learn that will reap you as much financial benefit as this. So it's totally worth your time.
Oh, that beautiful.
Thank you.
So write sticky notes, put them everywhere. Like you said, on your alarm clock, when you're hopping into the shower, in the car, because to your point, it could get you to breakfast. For most of us, that's what's going to happen. You will always, and I tell people this, as a human being, whether you own a business, you're an entrepreneur, you're a high, C-level project manager, whatever it is, you're always going to get knocked off your center. That's the price you pay for life and for living. There are stresses. You're always going to change one stress for another, whether it's payroll or your people or your process or your profit, whatever it might be. It's how you interact with it and how you see it. And this one single tool that you have given me, Dana, if that's 60 to 120 seconds. And I actually have that on sticky notes everywhere. Find your 120 seconds. And it already triggers my brain. Like, that's all you need, is to find your next landing breath. You just need the power of the pause, because you're not going to find solution in the frenzy.
Yeah. Wow. That's so good too. Yeah. I keep saying that I really should have some stock in 3M, because we do sell the sticky notes a lot, and alarms on your phone. Like, there are all sorts of ways. I love my new, my watch bell, because the watches, they're so great. They give you little buzzes all day to remind you, and, it's easy. And I mean, I think that's really the parting shot, is that this is easier than you think it is. Just focus on what's going right. Look at what's going right in your life. We all have so many things to be happy about. We do have so many things that are going right for us. And it's our habit to want to fix things. And I get that. But if you can just take a little joy and revel in all the ways that you're awesome and that you're already doing fine. You're doing just fine. You're doing great. There's so many things that are going right for you. And spend more time thinking of those and celebrating them, and thinking in your own head and creating joy for yourself. And it's not only practical, it really does feel good. It's totally worth it.
Well, thank you for your time today, for your wisdom, for your valuable insight and steps to train your brain. Can you tell our listeners how to stay connected with you?
I have a surprise for you, Molly. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Obviously, anybody can just find me at danawilde.com, and Wilde has an E at the end, and you can just check out. We got all sorts of fun little free stuff and quizzes and things. But I want to give everybody who's listening the Train Your Brain audiobook for free. All of it, the whole book. That's my favorite price.
Oh, wow.
I know. And so they can just go to danawilde.com/Molly McGrath, and they can get the audiobook for free.
Oh, thank you.
My pleasure.
I'll also have those links. I'll have Dana's website in the show notes, in addition to how to get this amazing gift today. Thank you very much for that.
My pleasure. I'm really happy to do it. And thanks for having me. I'm sure everybody has figured out we're kindred spirits, and I love your philosophies and all of the things you're into. I think you're making such a huge impact in this niche. It's so fun to see the world shifting, and you're totally part of that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, listeners, this has been another episode of Hiring and Empowering Solutions, where we make dream teams come true. In the notes, we will have how to stay connected with Dana Wilde and also her fabulous gift that she's giving to our listeners today in regards to how to download her audiobook. Until next time,